Speaking of finals, are you relaxed, having been here plenty of times before now?
Yeah, so this is our 5th year in a row. We've had lots of lessons along the way, and my job as the coach is to keep the place calm. And we've had a lot of experiences now. The boys know what finals are all about, so it hasn't been all that hard for me to do.
I feel like this is your big building towards this, and this is the best chance that this club has of making that real impact and winning that premiership that's eluded it for so long.
Yeah, we've always been a club that's had a growth mindset. Tried to teach the boys about that from the first day I started. And the big thing about growth mindset is you learn along the way, and you particularly learn from your failures and your mistakes. And we've been in 4 final series now and got to a couple of prelims, but haven't quite got to the big dance. So that's a topic of conversation for us all year. How can we improve enough to get there and hopefully salute? So the season's been the first step in that process. Tomorrow night's the next step. So and finals are different, and there's more at stake than home and away games.
Charlie,
there's been a lot of talk.
I was going to say, Charlie said yesterday, it's quite poignant, that you played the vision of after that Geelong match, the way they were hurting. And
Well, I think part of it is it's just putting them back there and remembering what that felt like. There's a really strong motivating psychological thing called loss aversion, and not that every meeting that we have do we look at the dark side of things, because there's plenty of positives to what we've done over the last 4 or so years. But that was our last memory of finals, and we don't want to go back there if we can help it. So showing that might help a little bit with motivation and just remembering why we've done what we've done this year.
There's been a lot of talk this week, Fags, about your change in attitude towards previous years and finals campaigns, and just the way you've kind of accepted the position that you're in.
What's that position?
Just in previous years, you've kind of tried to downplay perhaps the opportunity that's in front of you and your finals records and things like that. And this week, you've, in media opportunities, you've kind of accepted that the opportunity that's in front of you, and there's no been kind of shying away from it.
We've always accepted the opportunity that's been in front of us. I sort of reject that view. And part of when we started playing finals 4 years ago, we were really young, right? And we had a bit to learn about playing finals. If you remember back, our club hadn't played finals for about 10 or so years. Most of the boys hadn't played in finals. So what we've been doing over the course of the past few years is gathering experience. And our last final series, we won 2 finals and lost 1, and that's the only one I remember. So that's not a bad record.
What I meant by asking that was, it just seems like there's a real steely focus in this group this week, and a real, or even in the last couple of weeks, it's like a change in attitude, not in a negative way in any.
We've always had a good attitude in finals, and we've always wanted to win them, and we just haven't been quite good enough a few times. We've played really good sides. Teams that have won premierships have knocked us out. So I think that happens naturally when you've been there often enough, and I've been at clubs where that happened at Hawthorn. They didn't make finals in 9, knocked out in the first week in 10, beaten in a prelim in 11, lost the grand final in 12, and then won 3 in a row. It's just a learning process, and that's what we've been through with a very young list to now quite a mature list over the last 4 or 5 years. So I see that as a very normal thing, even though we've hated the fact that we've lost some close finals along the way.
Not a long time ago, but what did you learn out of round 1 when you last saw these guys?
If you don't win the contest and you don't put pressure on, they can beat you up. That was our most unimpressive performance for the year. We played really poorly that day. They're a really great side. If you look at their midfield, they got a couple of All-Australians in there and a Brownlow medalist. They're a really talented team, and they won 13 games in a row this year. And they won the same number of home and away games as what we did. So we're pretty even, I think.
Do you feel like you didn't perhaps respect them as much that day, or you didn't show up with the right attitude towards them that day, and you definitely won't have that tomorrow night?
We respect all of our opponents. And particularly Port Adelaide, even though we had a decent record against them, the games had always been close and fiercely contested, which we expect tomorrow night to be. So, no, at the start we just didn't play well that day. I can't explain why. 6 months ago, and a lot of water's passed under the bridge, and I think tomorrow night we'll come out a very different team than we did 6 months ago.
And I know you say this place won't be a difference, but it does make a difference. Like
What's that?
I know you say this won't, the crowd won't win you the game, but it does make a difference. You have to admit that.
Oh, it's always an advantage to play at home for every team, you know. There's no doubt about that, but it doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee one thing about the result. It just makes it a more pleasant environment to play in.
Makes it a little more unpleasant for Port, right?
Yeah, well, it's harder because the crowd noise is in our favour, and that's always a factor. But finals time, I think I said this to my last press conference that, you know, when the good teams play each other, I reckon home ground advantage is probably not as big as what it is in the home and away season because the stakes are high. You know, they'll be getting themselves ready to come over here and throw everything at us, and we know that. So we've got to throw everything back at them.
What's the biggest change, Chris, between this team and the team you rolled out a year ago against Richmond, do you think?
Very settled lineup compared to last year. We had a lot of change in our team in the second half of the year last year. I think we played 14 different blokes in the back line in the last 10 weeks. We've pretty much had the same set of guys in there, for instance, this year for the latter half of the season. So I think that's the difference, a settled lineup. Strong form. You know, our form last year was win, loss coming into finals. This year, I think our last 11 games, we've won 9 of them, and one of those losses were by a point. So our form's strong, which gives you good belief. And we're a year older and wiser.
And some of those injuries that you've had along the way, even recently, Will and Rich Gunston being out, everyone that's come in has managed to establish themselves and actually probably changed the team, the way they play a bit. If you look at the likes of,
I think I think you're right. They've been out long enough for the team to get accustomed to those guys not playing, and others to come in and fulfil the roles. So it's harder when you lose people on the eve of finals, I must admit, but a little easier when you've had 4, 5, 6 weeks to get used to the idea and build other players into the system.
Did you get a bloke? Sorry.
Did you tinker anything with your preparation over the last 2 weeks? Because the 2 longer breaks you've had this year, you've come out and been flat or below your best after those longer breaks.
Yeah, we fundamentally didn't have any time off. On those other breaks, we gave the players, 3 or 4 days break, and to be honest, they needed to have that then. But with not that many weeks to go in the season, we just sort of did a little bit differently last week. We gave them Sunday and Monday off after the Saints game, and then we've pretty much trained it on routine since then. So no real break. Players have enjoyed that. Their bodies have recovered.
Chris, from this time last year, you got a bloke called Dunkley in the middle. He's been so big for you.
Yeah, he's been an important acquisition because he sets a really good example defensively. And he tackles hard, he puts ferocious pressure on the opposition, and he never ever gives up. And he's a born leader, and we sort of knew that when we were getting him, but he's probably exceeded expectations in that regard. He's really helped drive standards around the club or add to what we'd already been building. So I think he's a bloke like him's made to play in finals.
Did you watch last night? How does that make, are you a good watcher of football, or does it get you excited as a coach?
I just watch it to see what teams are doing pretty calmly. I don't get too excited, but there's a chance we'll play one, if not both of those teams at some point in time in the finals, so it's always good to see what they're up to.
The past sort of couple of weeks, we've seen some videos, the tears, sort of emotional with Marcus and Daniel Rich. How can that I guess drive this team? Because remember you said we're doing this for you, and you pointed at Marcus. Is that something which you can use?
I don't overuse it, but I know it motivates our players. I mean, when there's a guy through no fault of his own has to finish his career and miss out on the opportunity that this group is now having, then surely that makes them feel like how lucky they are and how they should make the most of that opportunity, because you never quite know when your opportunity might be gone. So it's a good life lesson. And our group are a close group. Not really used deliberately. Just came out of me, but it's the truth.
Chris, you seem a lot more relaxed at this point this year than maybe the last couple of years.
So you guys got a relaxationometer on me.
Not being amateur body language person, you seem like there's more confidence exuding from you. Is that because the players have instilled that confidence that you think you know that they can get the job done this time?
Well, I think we've had a really good season, and I think we're hard to beat. And I think there's been games that we might have lost in the past that we've found a way to win in. So I feel like we're a tougher side mentally, which is something we've deliberately worked on throughout the pre-season and through the course of the year. So, and you get confidence through performance. And I've been with these boys for a long time now, and I think the best example I can show them is to be calm. So that's what I'm doing.
So you're feeling pretty relaxed heading into this one?
As relaxed as you can. I mean, I was tossing and turning a bit last night, sort of imagining the game and how it might pan out, but that's just normal stuff. I mean, all of us invest heaps into a football season. It feels like we've been getting ready for this for 7 years, to be honest with you. That's what it feels like, particularly for guys that have been here for the whole journey. So, you want to just make the most of your opportunity. You don't want to let it slip by. And I don't feel like we let opportunities slip by in previous years. I just don't think we've been quite ready. But we've been getting closer all the time. And this year it's as close as we've been, I reckon. So we want to try and make the most of that.
Chris, with your 4 emergencies, you've got all the bases covered. What's going to decide? What's going to make you decide which way to go there? Or for your sub?
Yeah, probably where we see maybe the biggest threat come from the opposition team. So a bit goes into it. Talk a little bit more about that this afternoon. You could have Kai Loman come into the side because he brings speed and energy and zip off the bench. Lyons could come in because you might need somebody to help you win a bit more of the contested ball because that's his strength. Gardner's there if you feel like you're a little bit vulnerable down in defence. And Fordy's obviously there because if you lose a ruckman in the warm-up, you need one to take his place. So the ruckman always gets on the emergency list. Not that Darcy never deserves to be there because he's very, very close to being a regular AFL ruckman. So they're all there for those reasons, and we've just got to work our way through what we think is the most important reason.
Just want to ask one about Charlie quickly, is that all right? Just on Mornington Island, he's obviously come from remote Queensland. How special is that, a kid? I know we know what he's like, 200 games, he's the star of this team, but to come from such a remote place in Queensland.
Yeah, it's interesting to sit down and talk to him about his story and his journey to get here. I think he's even more of a rugby player than he was a football player initially. But yeah, it's a fantastic story, and it's a great inspiration to his community where he's actually come from, and that's been talked about this week. I think with Charlie Cameron, the bottom line to me is that until Charlie came along, I'd never seen the Gabba light up, but since he's come to our club, he lights the place up and he entertains and he plays footy in the right way, which is he shows all his skills, but he also is a good team player, and he puts on a lot of pressure and he puts a lot of smiles on people's faces. And at the end of the day, that's what, aside from trying to win premierships, that's what this game's all about.